Guyana's opposition leader asks the CCJ to order elections in September. And in sport, a former West Indies vice captain says the Caribbean side's failure at the World Cup was a reality check. I'm Ricardo Robertson. This is Caribbean in 10 for Thursday, July 11th. I'll be back with the details after the break.
I held several different jobs in order to work my way through college. I made pizza, moved furniture, flipped burgers, sold advertising for a radio station. The latter was a real challenge at first because many small businesses I called on would repeat the same objection. Radio advertising doesn't work. Nobody listens to radio anymore. I learned very early the best way to overcome that objection was to offer a free campaign to the business owner with one caveat.
Safe, clean drinking water. We take it for granted every time we turn on the faucet, and yet we are highly dependent on it. In fact, approximately 86% of the U.S. population, about 270 million people, relies on a public water supply, using about 42 billion gallons per day.
Water is in almost every single aspect of our life. We need water to irrigate our crops.
Guyana's opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo has asked the Caribbean Court of Justice, the CCJ, to order that President David Granger name September 18, 2019 as Election Day. And his opposition People's Progressive Party also wants the court to order that a chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission be appointed in 3 days. Jagdeo's requests through his lawyers come days before the regional court is expected to hand down consequential orders related to the no-confidence motion it said was validly passed against the government last year, as well as the appointment of a GCOM chairman to replace the last one whose appointment was flawed. Now, some of the other requests by the opposition party include that the election be held using the current voters list and that the president and his cabinet resign immediately. Jagdeo's legal team, which comprises Trinidad and Tobago Senior Counsel Douglas Mendez and former Attorney General Anil Nandalal, say that since the 3-month deadline to hold general elections after the passage of the no-confidence motion had expired on March 21st, they want the Trinidad-based CCJ to set a new election date that is within the 3 months since the no-confidence motion was validated. The lawyers say the postponing of an election would violate the Constitution as it relates to the passage of a no-confidence motion. Police and immigration officers in Trinidad and Tobago are searching for 10 men who were among a dozen who escaped from an immigration detention center yesterday afternoon. The 12, most of them Venezuelans, got away from the center at Aripo, but 2 of them, Charlie Jose and Claudio Flores, were subsequently taken into custody. We get more from CNC3's Ryan Bechu.
Claudio Flores. At around 11 p.m. yesterday, officers of the IDC were told by another detainee that Jose and Flores were in a nearby forested area. A landmark location was given and the Venezuelan men were eventually found. They were taken into custody. However, the search continues for the remaining 10 escapees. Police say the men, 11 Venezuelans and 1 Grenadian national, escaped between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. yesterday during an airing exercise. According to reports, the men who escaped on the eastern side of the perimeter after cutting a hole in the fence. This is the 3rd breakout from the IDC this year. In April, 5 men escaped and 2 broke out of the facility in March.
A warning from Jamaica's security chiefs that the states of emergencies in places in various parts of the island should not be ended prematurely. At the same time, they say they don't expect the measure to be permanent. Their comments came days after the latest state of emergency was declared in St. James on Sunday. TVJ's Dion Jackson Miller has that story.
Sunday's declaration was the 5th since last year, with St. James now under a state of emergency for the 2nd time in 2 years. They're imposed on the recommendation of the security forces. But the police commissioner and chief of defense staff insist they're neither advocating a permanent state of emergency nor an island-wide one.
Apart from the resource issues that were mentioned before about keeping an island-wide state of emergency. We're not advocating that. We're saying that where you actually have very high violence, what this method or tool has shown is that it can rapidly drop that violence in a way that we haven't really seen, and I certainly haven't seen anywhere else in the world, even though I've looked around. What else does it as quickly as this?
Chief of Defense Staff Rocky Meade argues that any momentum gained will be lost if the states of emergency end too soon.
The less disruption we have in using those tools is the faster we will get the rates down. We can't have a disruption in the tool and then there's an insistence that it should work within a certain limited time. Give us the tools uninterrupted and I guarantee you we will have effect. And once the short term will end when the emergency is over.
Dion Jackson Miller.
And stay with us, your Midday Sport is next. Former West Indies vice-captain Derek Murray believes the Caribbean side read too much into their performance against England in the 5-match one-day series earlier this year, and it proved or provided a false premise for unrealistic expectations at the World Cup. West Indies held the world #1 and World Cup favourites England in a 2-2 draw back in March, triggering widespread hope they could mount a serious challenge at the global showpiece in England, but they managed just 2 wins in 9 outings in the tournament to finish 9th in the 10-team standings, only above Minnows Afghanistan, who were playing in their first World Cup. Derek was speaking with Mason and Guest program in Barbados.
If we are realistic, just before the tournament, Bangladesh had beaten us in a tournament with Ireland. Afghanistan has beaten us fairly regularly over the odds. I think there was a bright spark in the tournament that we played with England. And we forgot to look at the fact that England came almost on holiday, a little winter break. They were caught very complacent. They played bad cricket rather than we played excellent cricket, although the result was excellent. And I think that buoyed our hopes that we could compete with the top boys.
Still in cricket now, ex-West Indies fast bowler Ravi Rampal took his season tally to 36 after picking up 4 second innings wickets to help bowl Derbyshire to a convincing 82-run victory over Worcestershire at Chester Road yesterday. Resuming the final day at Chester Road on 156 for 5 in pursuit of a challenging 373 for victory, Worcestershire folded for 290 despite Australian Callum Ferguson's defiant 127. That's Caribbean in 10. Good afternoon.